Hi, and welcome back to the Britt Mayer Show. I am very excited to be bringing on today someone who I have followed for a really long time. Before I actually ever met her in person, I referred to her as my mentor from afar. And she is one of the number one reasons why I am a homeschooling mama. And I'm just so excited to bring on Heidi St John, who has been speaking on marriage, family, and cultural issues for over 15 years. And her passion has been to encourage moms and set them free to boldly become who God has created them to be. She will challenge, and she'll encourage you. And I am just excited for this conversation, just to bring her in. So, Heidi, welcome. Thank you so much for joining today.
Hey, Britt, it's great to see you. Thanks for having me.
Yes. Okay. Do you have your coffee? Because mine is, I am so
Girl,
excited for this conversation. I've
I
been waiting all day for it.
I do. I'm ready to go. Actually, I'm at water right now. I had a little water and Redmond sea salt because I needed a little mineral boost.
A little boost.
Yeah. But Karen England's going to be here in like an hour and a half, and then I'll need the coffee for sure. Because that girl, if she hasn't been on your show already, you got to have her on.
I need to get her on. I need to have her on. She's awesome.
Like a fire-breathing dragon. I only hang out with women who are fire-breathing dragons now, because otherwise we singe each other. And if you're both fire-breathing dragons, then nobody gets hurt because we all understand. Yeah, we all understand. Yeah.
Well, speaking of that, you are a fire-breathing dragon, and I have appreciated for so long just your work in advocating for women to step into the potential that God has called us into beyond what we feel equipped to do. Because a lot of times that is such a barrier to entry, as we think, gosh, it all sounds really good, like everything that you're saying, but I don't feel equipped enough. So, before we get into that, I want to talk and set the stage about redeeming our children in this current culture and environment that we live in, with a focus on education, which has been your focus for a really long time. And just talk to us about why do we even talk about redemption? Why do we even need to talk about rescuing our kids from culture in this current moment that we find ourselves in?
Well, I think we've forgotten how precious our children are. Right. I mean, it's just a political talking point. People talk about our children are the future, and we're screwing up the future for our kids through our education system every time they step foot onto a government school property. And that's the truth. And what's happening in our children right now is a Marxist tactic. This cultural Marxism is absolutely in our schools. It's been there now for generations. People say, well, the schools are broken. And I'm here to tell you they are not broken. They're doing exactly what they were designed to do. This is a Marxist system that's been designed by people who were socialists at their core. John Dewey was a socialist. Horace Mann was a socialist. Orestes Brownson was a socialist. These people believed that children were the inherent property of the state. And they understood if they wanted to have a government revolution, it would need to start in education. So you have to have an educational revolution before you can have a government revolution. Which is why I keep telling people, and listen, I'm a super fan of President Trump. I voted for him. I campaigned for him. But the answers that this country needs are not going to be found in a president. It won't be found federally, because what's happening, and I think you guys are seeing this in California like we are in Washington State, the public school system, the government school system is cranking out by the hundreds of thousands every single year, kids who hate this country. Yeah. And now they're confused about gender. They can't tell you what gender they are, but boy, they could sure tell you how many pronouns they have and what a two-spirit is. They can tell you all that garbage, but they are failing in reading, writing, and arithmetic. And if we don't get to the root of the problem in this country, well, first, the root is Jesus. I mean, we can agree, right? This nation has fallen so far away from the Judeo-Christian values that it was founded upon. This is inherently, or it was, a Christian nation founded on the principles found in the Bible. It's etched into almost every single one of our federal buildings. So no one can tell me, well, those guys didn't believe in God. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. But we moved away from it. And in our schools, we are conditioning our children and indoctrinating them into really what is just leftist ideology. The teachers' unions are run by leftists. The schools are run by radical activists disguised as teachers. That's not to say that there aren't good teachers in the schools, but the schools are not controlled by good teachers. They're controlled by activists. And even though we've got, Trump in the White House right now, and definitely he's doing some good things, I hope they get rid of the Department of Education. If we don't get to the root of the problem in education, we're going to continue to be having this conversation, because these kids are coming out of our government schools, high schools and colleges, indoctrinated into leftist ideology. And so for every two people that are hacking at the root. There are 1,000 people hacking at the branches. The
Yeah.
root is
So
education.
true. That's so good, and you're so right on to say that that was such a focus of the takeover. It was such a hostile takeover, and I just finished reading this incredible book on communism and how the focuses were in education
Yep.
and at the pulpit and seminaries because they knew that if you can gain access there and you can get your foothold on in those arenas, then you can influence so widely so many.
Yep. They've done it. They've been wildly successful. I mean, we saw how successful they've been in the pulpit in the middle of the Rona, right? I mean, I was down there speaking at a rally with you in
Yep.
Southern California, and it was astonishing to me how few pastors actually stood up. We have been conditioned to shut up, sit down, follow orders, stand on a dot in the middle of Walmart, wear a mask. We don't know why we're doing these things, but we're doing them because we've been conditioned to obey. And we've lost the art of critical thinking, and we have to bring that back. You can't bring it back in a school system that doesn't want to have anything to do with it.
That's what I was just going to say is the school system doesn't want that. They don't want to raise critical thinkers. They'll tell you that they do. And I think that there are some teachers who are good in there who think that they are trying to accomplish that. But the reality is that they're not. They don't want people who are going to challenge the system or the status quo. So do you think that the education system is even redeemable? Like we know that Trump says
No,
he's going to get rid of the Department of Ed. So
it's not redeemable. It isn't even a question anymore. That's like asking if USAID is redeemable. The answer is no, because it is corrupt. It is corrupt down to its root. And you've got to yank this thing out, root and branches. You've got to get to the root. And so people ask me if I think it's redeemable. I say no, and then people cry, "Don't you care about the kids?"
Mhm.
I absolutely care about the kids, which is why I'm telling you, get your kid out of government school. We're injuring our children, body, soul, mind, and spirit, and we're doing it so that they can get a mediocre education. Our kids are failing. They're failing in reading, writing, and arithmetic, and that's why I've been telling moms, listen, bring your kids home, homeschool them. You can do it. You can absolutely do it. Your worst day homeschooling your kids is going to be better than their best day in the cesspool known as the government schools.
That's so true. You know what's funny is when I started listening to you years ago, I remember you kind of left it open as an option, like
Yeah.
if you want to take your kids
Right,
out,
right.
if and now you're like you better take them out. There is no other option.
That was the kinder, gentler, pre-sexualized, agenda that I saw in the schools.
Yeah.
I mean, I took my daughter out. She's 33 now, and she's pregnant with her 5th child. So I'm coming up on 8 grandchildren.
Oh.
And when I took my daughter out of school, the schools, I still have a 14-year-old daughter at home, and I'm raising her in a vastly different world. When I took Savannah out, it was because I saw something that I thought would be life-giving for our family. I never thought I'd homeschool our kids.
Mhm.
I was just like, what woman in her right mind would do that when a yellow bus come take your kids away for free and you can go to the gym
To a
and
spa,
actually
yeah.
get your favorite drink at Starbucks on your way to
Mhm.
read a book at the bookstore or go to the grocery store in relative peace.
Mhm.
It was never on my radar. But when I started seeing some of the good things that were coming out of homeschooling and I started seeing the disconnect that my younger children were having from their older sister who was gone off to school, they're gone. Our kids are gone. Britt, think about this. Our kids are gone from us for the very best hours of their day. The very best hours of their day, we give them to people that don't know them and that we don't even really know. We don't know the people that are teaching our children as a general rule. We don't know them. And then we get the kids back at the end of the day when they're spent and tired and they just want to sit in front of television or get on their iPad. We feed them dinner and we wash, rinse, repeat, start all over again. We send our kids to Rome for school and we wonder why they come out Romans.
Mhm.
That's why. So I really ran to something when I finally figured out, okay, there's a better way.
Yes.
And you give Heidi St. John a little red wagon, I'm going to go to the library and figure it out, right? I was just like, I'm on fire. We're going to do this thing. Well, today's homeschool parents are largely not like that. They're not running to something, they're running from something.
Yeah. Mhm.
And so if that's the case, then we need to give them something to run to. Those of us who understand what homeschooling entails and what it takes to stay strong to the very, very end. I am so concerned for this next generation of children and this next generation of parents. We have to wake up. So you're right. I've absolutely changed. People get on my social media from time to time and they say things like, I just miss the old Heidi. I just wish you'd come back and talk about homeschooling your own kids and how great it was and share your recipes and your ideas for home management. Well, I guess what? I miss her too. Okay. She gone. She gone.
This is why I love you. I mean,
I
you crack me up.
got grandkids now,
This is
man.
why I was drinking coffee going into this. I was like, I'm gonna need to catch up. I need to keep up with Heidi. Okay, so one of the pushbacks that you get when you talk to moms about homeschooling as an alternative is
Yeah.
either for a lot of them, it's I don't have the time. I don't know where to start, or but what about socializing? That what about and I know you and I can laugh because look, okay, I homeschool my kids too. But I want to hear it from you. For those moms
Yeah.
out here who are like, but socializing the kids,
Yeah.
Heidi,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
they've
Yeah.
got to be socialized.
They do. And I couldn't agree more. All you got to do to socialize your kids is give birth to them and give them breakfast, and you've done your job. Right. When in the world, why did we decide that socialization should be akin to the Lord of the Flies? And we're going to send our 5-year-old and have them socialize, whatever that means, in another group of 5-year-olds who are equally as dumb and ill-equipped as they are. I just think somewhere along the line, we bought the lie that that was socialization. And I've raised 7 kids now, and only one of them has ever been to a government school. And I'll tell you what, my kids are doing just fine. They're entrepreneurs, they're parents in their own right, they're raising children of their own. And I think the socialization came when I said, "Oh no, hey, you don't act like that in Walmart." Well, I mean, that's not really a high standard, but you see what I'm saying, right? I mean, everybody else is wearing their pajamas, but not you, honey. That's not what we do when we go to the grocery store, right? And so we teach our children by being with them. I mean, we care more about tomato plants in this country than we do about our own children.
Very
And when
true.
people come to me and they say, "Oh, Heidi, I'm just so worried about social," the reason I laugh is because I'm like, you know what? You're right. I too am concerned about socialization. And that is exactly why I took my kid out of public school.
Yeah,
Why
because
in the
you look at
world?
look at what they would if you choose to send your kid to a school, right? You look at what they are going into. And you talked about it before. It's literally like not being able to fully equip a person and then sending them to the front of
Yeah.
the battle and just saying like, "Good luck, Johnny and Susie.
Yeah.
We know that you're still in
Here's your sack
development."
lunch, but mama put some organic apple slices in there for you, and
Yes.
that's going to help. No, it isn't going to help. I mean, we literally are doing that. We are giving our kids a sack lunch, and we're walking them out to the school bus, which I'm sorry, I look at that thing like a Humvee taking kids to the front lines of the most dangerous spiritual battle that we have ever been on in our lives. There is a reason why the left is targeting children. Jesus said it, right? When he was talking to the Pharisees, he said to them in Luke 6:40, he said, "When a student is fully trained, he will be like his teacher." If Jesus was rebuking the Pharisees, then why aren't we rebuking our pastors right now and saying, "Listen, when are you guys going to do your part? When a student is fully trained, he'll be like his teacher." Are we surprised that kids are coming out of these schools and they're confused and they have leftist ideologies and they believe in the 1619 Project and transgenderism, which, by the way, isn't a thing. It doesn't exist. There is
Preach.
no such thing as transgender. There are 2 sexes. You are male or female, full stop. And that doesn't mean that there are not chromosomal abnormalities. Intersex does exist. But this idea of transgenderism is a made up term from the radical left. And we have to stop using it. It's not even a word. I had Walt Heyer on my show a couple of weeks ago, and he sat across the table
Amazing.
from me, and we both of us cried.
Yeah,
Both
he's
of us cried.
amazing.
And he
Amazing.
said, "Stop using the word. It doesn't exist. We're
Mhm.
hurting our kids. It's child abuse." And
Yeah, but
that's why I'm so passionate. I think it's child abuse. Don't send your kid to public school.
No, but even just on that topic, just to drill down on that a little bit, when we're sending our kids into school systems that have to play the game, and so they're, I was just teaching my second grader pronouns, and it hit me when I was teaching him pronouns. I'm like, oh my gosh, how confusing must it be for if I just sat there next to my son and like to even try to explain pronouns to him from a woke perspective of the they, them. Like, I don't even know how you would. So we are poisoning our children's little brains day after day after day after, even just in that one arena. If the temperature is mild, we're just changing. They're going to be, what is it, like polite with pronouns?
Right.
No, you're fully poisoning and confusing a child. Like, my son would be so confused, and that would affect so much of his ability to reason with the world around him.
And that's the point.
Yeah.
That is the point. They want your kid confused and unable to reason the world around them. That is the reason why you saw millions of adults standing on dots in the middle of the grocery store. We didn't know what we were doing. We have literally been conditioned to just sit down and shut up.
Mm.
And this is, you go back to Rockefeller, I mean, back to the beginning of the school movement, if you will, before the Department of Education was formed. These guys didn't want educated thinkers. They wanted workers. They wanted workers. That was the whole point. And to me, what we're doing to our kids, and this is why I think I will probably never be able to go back to being the sort of fun-loving homeschool mom that taught people how to make sourdough, although I do still really like making sourdough bread, I have to say.
Okay, wait, one little
Still
second
really
about
do
sourdough.
like that.
My sourdough, I started during COVID, as did every other
Yeah,
mother
yeah,
in America.
yeah.
And I did it. I was really good at it. That little baby has been in the back of my fridge since the mask
Dude,
situation was over.
I just flew to Kansas City and I rescued a friend of mine, sourdough starter, had been in the back of her fridge. No, it had like this much hooch on it.
Yeah,
and she was like, I don't know. It's just sort of, I'm like, girl, no. We dumped maybe half of that out. And I stirred it back in, talked to it a little bit. Hi, mama's home. What can I do for you, honey? Yeah. And
That thing's
bam,
bubbly,
she's
coming
making
back to
sourdough
life.
bread. Yeah, right back to life. That's great.
No, okay, but to get back to what you were saying, you became a warrior. You did become a warrior. And so
Yeah.
it is hard to like think in terms of the niceties of, even it's funny when we launched the high school out here, that I'm on a board of a co-op high school out here to rescue kids. And there was some, discomfort with the term rescue, because it's like, oh, we don't want to offend like
That's exactly what you're
the
doing.
Christians that they're still sending their kids into the system, and we don't want to offend them because we don't want to use the word rescue. I'm like, no, we're fully rescuing our kids from
we got to
from a
stop
battle.
worrying about offending people. I mean, I guarantee you the left isn't worried about offending you. The people that are indoctrinating your children don't care if you're offended by their misuse of pronouns and their radical the ideologues that are spouting lies to your kids every day. They don't care if you're offended. They're going to sick the FBI on you first chance they get.
Yeah.
We got to stop worrying about people's feelings. Like Ben Shapiro says, facts don't care about your feelings. And that's exactly what you do. When you take your kids out of school, you are rescuing them.
So what do you think about this new Trump administration? I keep calling him Trump 2.0 because he is savage. He came back with a blowtorch.
Dude, well, you knew that was going to happen when Melania Trump stepped out of the car in her like wide brim hat. And I was like, I looked at, because we were in DC for it. And I looked at my husband. I was like, my name is Melania Trump. You tried to kill my husband. Prepare to die. Like, I was like,
exactly it. Exactly.
I'm like, dude, it is
dark
on.
MAGA. She was dark MAGA. You want to talk dark MAGA? That is what she was.
Yeah,
but
who
he's
could
coming
blame
back.
her?
No, who could blame her? They raided her closet,
her underwear
Mar-a-Lago.
drawer. I mean, come on. She was like, get out of my underwear drawer. Okay, you want to play? Let's play.
Yeah, and she threw on that hat. Yeah.
Dude,
I'm
here for it. I'm here for it every day. I'm just like, what are we doing today?
Do you think under this 2.0 savage Trump, do you think that it's going to get better to a point where you're like, okay, you can send your kids back to government school?
No.
Do you care to elaborate?
No, it's not going to get better because it's literally rotten to the core.
Yeah.
And so what he's going to do, I mean, people need to understand that the job of the federal government should never be education. And so the very best that Trump can do, the very best thing that he can do is strip government funding from the public schools in every state in the union. And I can already hear the demons from hell screeching because Washington state takes $1 bazillion from the federal government. But it is not the job of the federal government. The founding fathers' intent for the federal government was very, very small. It was provide for the national defense. So we're failing. So all the areas that the federal government should be doing what it's doing, we're failing. And all these places where it shouldn't be, we're just meddling. And so my thought, and this is what I think Linda McMahon is there to do, I think she's there to dismantle the Department of Education, which needs to happen. And then once they do that, we got about 50 years of work to get the schools to a place where I think it's even reasonable again. You have to be talking to parents about what their primary responsibility is. It is the parents' job to educate children. And we've seen in the homeschool movement, that can be done a million different ways. You can get tutors to come into your home. You can start homeschool cooperatives. You can do what we've done here, which is start a homeschool resource center. We are also on an academic rescue mission here. And I think as long as there are leftists in education, it cannot be reformed.
Yeah, it's a ball of worms. I heard that in reference to US aid or
Yes.
USAID, where it's like they went in to try to get the worms out of the apple, and
Yeah.
it's like, oh, the whole thing was just a ball of worms. There
And
wasn't even
that's
flesh left.
That's exactly what this is.
Yeah.
And I think the more that we do, I started going 8 years ago before it was cool. I was going to school board meetings and people were like, why are you at a school board meeting? Your kids are homeschooled. And I was like, well, because I heard that you guys are doing this weird sex ed and I should care about it because one of those kids going to marry one of my kids. I
So
really
true.
want to know. I really want to know what's happening in the public schools. We
Yeah.
should care about that. These are tomorrow's teachers, tomorrow's doctors, tomorrow's lawyers, tomorrow's
Mhm.
president. They're
Mhm.
coming out of our school system for the
Yes.
love.
I
And
agree.
so I started listening, and Britt, what I heard was it was horrifying. I was like, "What is happening in our schools?" And I started hearing about so then I started going to curriculum review committees, and I was hearing things that I'm like, "Can you guys even say that out loud? Like, what in the heck are we doing?"
Yeah.
Like, I went to, Brush Prairie to look and see what was happening in the schools there, and they had the sex ed there, and you know how many there are thousands of kids in this district. You know how many parents showed up to review the curriculum? And my kid wasn't even in the school, maybe 15 max. And they started reading. Well, of course, now my eyes are trained. So I'm like, I'm skim reading. And I was
Yeah.
like, I'd like to just to draw everyone's attention. They got so sick of me. They're like, Mrs. St. John. I'm like, oh, thank you. Thanks for calling on me. I'd just like you guys to all look at page 749. And at the bottom of the instruction about condoms, which of course we're giving lots of instruction, very important. Here's your banana. We're going to demonstrate, blah, blah, blah. They list the pros and cons of condom use. The pros were that they could protect you from sexually transmitted diseases, more or less true. That they can prevent pregnancy, more or less true. You know what the only con they listed? This is literally in the book. Here it is. Are you ready?
Oh, yeah.
Your parents can find them.
Wow. Wow.
That was in the curriculum.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so what you're saying about how it is designed to separate the separation's already occurred because you're already
Yes.
sending your kid outside of your home so
Yeah.
frequently.
Yeah.
But then it's to drive a wedge in that separation.
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly right, which is why I've turned into a fire-breathing dragon.
Yeah.
When I realized that I had bought the lie that I wasn't capable of teaching my own kid to read, I was like, "Oh my gosh, you guys lied to me." I remember my friend Sam Sorbo saying, "That's because you didn't get educated, you got schooled."
Mm.
And that's what's happening. And so we've done this to parents. First, we school the parents. You're too dumb to teach your 5-year-old to
Yep.
read. Really? I mean, really? We don't think we're capable. And then we tell them because the lie of feminism comes in and says, anything he can do, you can do better. So now women who were born nurturers, born to be the beautiful side of Creator God, right? Rather than focus on being nurturers and raising children and building strong homes, we're going to work because you got to have the great house in the suburbs with the 2 nice cars and all the things. We're giving our kids to somebody else to raise every day. And then we're looking back at our lives at 45, 50. I mean, I'm 55 and I'll be 55 in a couple of weeks. We're looking back at our lives now. We're like, what just happened? I
Yeah.
just gave the best years of my life to somebody else.
Mm.
And the schools take time away from parents. You can never get it back. I'm here to tell you, I have 7 kids and almost all of them are grown. You can never get it back. You get one shot. And if I had a nickel for every mom who comes to me crying at conferences that I speak at and says, I don't know why I didn't figure this out when my kid was 10 or 7, and now they're 17 and I don't even know my child. It's like they came home one day for school and I'm like, wait a second, you don't share my values? We don't see eye to eye on anything. It's because the school just spent the last 18 years of their life, 12 years of their life, literally tearing them from the fabric of the family from whence they came. That's the goal.
Gosh. It's really when you put it like that, I have chills because it's so sobering. Um, wow.
Well, it's an emergency, right?
It
And this
is,
is,
and it
I
the
want
way
people to
how you
understand.
phrase it like that too, when you put it in a little bottle for us to drink on the rocks like that, I'm like,
Ooh,
"Ooh,
that should be I should rename my podcast. I'll call it On the Rocks with Heidi St John.
you
I love
should,"
that.
with
On the
some
Rock.
fire on the side.
Come on. Fire on the
Um,
rocks.
tell me this though, for a mom who's heard that and maybe just, like, got the wind taken out of her, that
Mhm.
gut punch of, "Oh, you're right."
Mhm.
Like, Jeremiah's going to school and coming back, and I am starting to notice that he's using language that's unfamiliar to me, and he's saying things that are making me question his values, and, He's starting to sympathize with things that are not part of our family fabric.
Mm.
For that mom, and I would say right now, just talking about the mom who may feel like it's too late, that
Mm.
their kid is a tween. They are so comfortable in the school setting. They have friends in school. How could I ever pull him away from his friends? This is his community. What on the rocks drink would you give to that mama right now?
Well, I guess I would just ask you, Britt, how many of your friends when you were 13 years old and hanging out, how many of them are you still hanging out with?
Oh, literally not a single one.
Yeah, same. We're sacrificing our children on an altar of their comfort.
Mm,
And we don't want to pull them out of their comforts. I mean, God forbid our children should be uncomfortable. And so in order for them to feel comfortable, we're willing to sacrifice them on the altar of that comfort. To hang out with a group of kids that by the time they're your age and my age, they're probably never going to hear from again.
yeah.
But how many of you are still talking to your parents? How many of us are still know our siblings? We're taking our children out of the one permanent relationship that God gives us the moment we're born.
Mm.
And we sacrifice them on the altar of temporary relationships so that our kids don't have to be uncomfortable and mom doesn't have to feel like she hurt her kids' feelings.
When you were just saying that, something kinda, like, happened. I I almost feel like what the system as it is now, what it's designed to do is it's designed to take kids from family and create a whole new family.
Yes?
So you are no longer like, yes, they come home and they sleep in a bed that you pay
Yeah.
for, and they eat the food that you pay for, and then you schlep them off to the sports you pay for.
Yep.
But you've actually become the secondary. Like, you
That's
aren't
right.
the family anymore. The family has become the system that is the government. Like,
And that's the point.
yeah.
That is literally the point. And lately, the last couple of years, we hear him say the quiet part out loud. When you see those signs that teachers have on their doors, if your mom doesn't accept you as trans, I'm your mom now,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
They just said the quiet part out loud. But the
Mm.
reality is, parents will be held to account on some level. I mean, the Lord's going to hold us to account someday for the way that we steward the beautiful relationship that God intends for us to have with our children.
Mm.
And it's priceless. I mean, I've got a 12-year-old grandson now, and I'm watching my daughter shepherding these little ones. And there's not very many days that go by that I'm not on the phone with her. And she's talking to me about how homeschooling is, she's maybe going to die from it. And, all the things. And I just keep reminding her, someday, Savannah, you're going to be on the phone with little Juniper, and she's going to be having this conversation with you. And it's that little wake up call to say, oh man, this is what's really important.
Mhm.
It's not the money. It's not your kid's 13-year-old friend. It's not the fact that they want to be in sports or that they like ballet. You are helping them form a framework for the rest of their lives. You're not raising a child, you're raising an adult.
Yeah.
And so our job is to give them that foundation that's going to take them through the rest of their lives. And someday, by the grace of God, your kids are going to be on the phone someday with you, and they're going to be sharing crock-pot recipes and talking about how he got stung by a bee. And you're not going to be the one who's parenting. Your child will be. And you do not want to look back over your life with regret
Mm.
because you get one shot. You get one shot.
Yeah.
Don't waste it.
And it's such the way that you phrase it, it's such a generational way of thinking. Instead of it is thinking beyond the temporary. The temporary can be really hard. And I mean, my kids are little, and it can be where you feel like you're in the trenches someday.
Yeah.
But it's getting beyond that and kind of like earning your grit a little bit and thinking generationally of what am I pouring into and investing in now because of the generations ahead that's coming down the chute, instead of thinking, the temporary is just really hard, and
Well, and
so
you're
this
right.
is gonna be easier.
I love that you're saying it because it is really hard.
Mhm.
I mean, have you been married for more than 5 minutes?
I have to my
Yes.
teenage sweetheart, like
Yes.
you, and it can be
Yes.
really hard.
It can be really hard. And the best things in
I
this
love you,
life
honey, if you're listening. I
I
love you.
know, right? Well, Jay and I celebrate our 35th anniversary this
Oh,
year.
you're double. You're right ahead of us. We're about to hit 16 years.
It's just,
Yeah.
it gets, honestly, I mean, it's always hard, I think, but it gets sweeter and sweeter
Mm.
and sweeter. And I love that man of mine. I mean, I love that we're getting wrinkles and we're getting white hair and all the things. Now we're watching our grandkids growing up. But it's hard. And
Yeah.
there's nothing that's worth doing in this life that's easy.
Oh,
If
that's
it's
so good.
worth it, it's going to be hard. And we have literally raised a generation of people who want comfort over everything else. Why aren't we
So
working? Why
good.
are we obese? Because we're lazy.
Mhm.
That's why.
Mhm.
Because we don't want to get up and do the hard work. We don't want to watch what we eat. We don't want to, I mean, hopefully, RFK going to get in there and help us
Come
out a
on,
little.
RFKJ. Come on.
Help a
Come
sister
on.
out. Come on. But I'm just saying we're lazy
Mhm.
and we are creatures of comfort and we want our comfort above everything else. This is why so many of us send our kids to school. We don't want to do the hard work. Someone
Mm.
said to me, I don't know, years and years ago, I made the mistake of taking my kids to the grocery store in the middle of the day, and I've got like a kid strapped to the front of me and a kid on the back of me, and somebody's riding in the cart, and the preteens are fighting over who's gonna go pick out the eggs and who's because I mean it was divide and conquer. I get to the
Oh, yeah.
grocery store and I'd be like, here's the game plan, right? I finally
20
get
minutes and we're done.
right, exactly. In, out.
Mhm.
Uh, and I finally get up to the cashier and my kids are putting stuff on the conveyor belt and they're kind of sneaking like, the candy bars and stuff, the bait of Satan
Always.
right onto
Always.
and I was like, "Hey, put that back. Hey,
Yeah.
stop that." And the cashier's like, "What are you guys doing? Why aren't you in school?" And my kids are like, "We're homeschooled." And part of me is just like, "Shut up. You're behaving badly. Everyone's fighting. Don't tell them you're homeschooled." And the checker was like, "Oh, honey, I could never I do not have the patience for that." Honestly, I wanted to wind up to not about patience. I mean, honestly, Britt, if it's about patience, we should all just go
Yeah, none of
home.
us are gonna do it.
None of us are gonna do it's
Mm-mm.
not about it's about perseverance, it's about perspective. It's about looking exactly what you're saying, it's about looking beyond where we are right now to see what do I want in 20 years.
Hmm.
If I want a healthy family in 20 years, then I'm doing the hard work now. And it is hard. Why are you running from it? I think just embrace it. It's like going to the gym. Just embrace the burn. Do we
Yeah.
like it? No. I mean, I don't like it. Maybe you like it. I
No.
don't like
No,
it.
I actually don't. I don't. And that's why we have a culture that jumps in for the things that we don't like and says that the simple thing is actually the better thing. Like we have the whole the fat shaming movement now.
Right.
Like San
Right.
Francisco just hired a fat czar to basically reinforce your comfort and say, no, 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 like you not wanting to go to the gym because it's hard and it's not fun. Actually, that's a good thing. It's
Yeah.
good to be
So gross.
unhealthy. But
It's
that's
so
our
gross.
culture has done that on large scale with fast food, with education, with religion,
Yes.
with our body, with our marriages. Marriages are so disposable now.
Yep.
And that's why I don't even want to put a caveat in this show of I don't want to offend anyone because I'm like I know I'm going to offend people
Mhm.
and I'm not here to shame, but I'm here to speak the truth. And like you said, sometimes the hard thing is the better thing. And if we were honest, a lot of times we don't do the better thing is because we don't want to do the hard thing.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I think that it takes looking in the mirror and putting on your big girl shoes and saying, I can not do the hard thing alone, but Jesus, help me.
Yeah.
Help me do the hard thing because generationally, I know that this is the better thing. So,
Yeah.
for those moms, Heidi, as we close out, what encouragement would you give them for the next steps of their thinking, you're right, like I have kind of started to lose my child and I haven't been thinking generationally. And I've been a little bit selfish in thinking that this is just comfortable to send the kids off and I get my days free.
Mhm.
What would those next steps be for those moms?
I think once you realize what the schools are doing, that's the first step. And you go, because you can't fix it. You can't redeem it. You can get on your school board, and I hope that you do, but pull your kid out. We're not going to be able to fix this, certainly not in our lifetime.
Mm.
And then after that, I think you got to get involved. You got to find your people. I'm a super fan of homeschool cooperatives, and it's why we started the Homeschool Resource Center here in Vancouver. We've got 1,300 students right now. 700 families come here.
It's
And
amazing.
they're finding what I call the 4 C's, right? The 4 pillars of a healthy family, especially when it's homeschooling. You're going to the resource center and you're going to get coffee. We got a coffee shop. You're going to find
So
curriculum
important.
because people get to buy and sell the curriculum in the bookstore. You're going to find community and you're going to find Christ. We were created for
Mm.
community. And this idea that homeschooling means that you have to do everything yourself, girl, I do not. I'm sorry. When Savannah was little, I dissected one animal at home and I was like, I am never doing this
Lord Jesus
again.
help you. Yeah.
No,
No.
exactly.
Mm-mm. I
And
did. I
so
was the
I,
same. One time I was
yeah,
one and done. Mm-mm.
yeah, me too.
Nope.
I was like, ooh, other people can do that. And so we
Yep.
found other people to do it. In generations past, tutoring and that kind of thing, this was the education of princes, right?
Mm.
You guys have the ability to do it right now. There's so many wonderful organizations. You guys have CHIA right there in the state of California. I've spoken there several times over the years. Find your local support groups, get in touch with the Homeschool Legal Defense Association. Every
So
homeschooling
important.
families should have a membership there. They
Yes.
protect you against government overreach. Here in Washington, and I know the same thing's true in Oregon and California. The government
And
overreach is
that's
real.
HSLDA, right? Is that
Yes,
the
yes,
hslda.org or com? I'll
that's right.
link it in the
.org.
show notes.
It's the
Yeah.
Homeschool Legal Defense Association, founded by my friend Mike Ferris, who's coming into town in just a couple weeks to be on my show. That guy's a fire breathing dragon. I mean, he saw this decades ago. But
Mm.
join HSLDA, and then I think it takes time to sort of, I mean, take your kids out of school. You can do it. I don't know why people are waiting. That's why I keep saying the barn is on fire. At what point do you get the horses out? The Titanic is sinking.
Let me
Get your
ask
kids out
you
of
that,
school.
Heidi. The barn is on fire. The Titanic is sinking. Can parents pull their kids out across? Do you know, with all the states, can you pull your kid in the middle of the year? I know in
Absolutely.
California you can, but
Yes.
so in
All
all the
50
states.
states.
So that's really important. So please, like, I think that's something that the audience needs to hear, is that you don't need to wait until next year when you're like, oh, it wasn't that bad.
Right.
If you see that the barn is on fire, you can go in and rescue your kids now and pull them out. And it's not very difficult to do that.
No, it's not difficult. Check your state law, and you can do that by HSLDA has all of 50 states, and you can click on your state and you can read your state law right there. But that's the most important part. And then I think just take some time to detox. Take some time to get to know your kids. Go to the zoo when no one else is there. Listen, all the homeschoolers know all the secrets. Like,
That's
we
right.
go on Tuesday morning when
And it's
nobody else is
usually
there.
a little percentage off too.
Oh yeah, it's amazing. We go to
Yeah.
all the things, start just get to know your kids again. Make cookies with them again. Read books again with your kids.
Mm.
You'd be amazed at what will happen. There was a woman who came into the Homeschool Resource Center last year. She pulled her kid out in like April of the year before that, right in the middle of the school year. And she said to me, tears streaming down her face, she said, I haven't seen my daughter in 3 years, and I finally
Mm.
have her back again. And I know, Britt, that there are people that are listening to this podcast that know what that feels like,
Yeah.
that you're losing your kid to a system. And I just want you to know the system was designed to take your child from you. It's doing what it was supposed to do. They're not building the family. They're not encouraging strong marriages. They're not doing well academically. They're bankrupting your kids morally. They're injuring them spiritually.
Yeah.
Why in heaven's name are we leaving our kids in these schools? If we care about them, we'll do the hard thing and we'll take them out.
My friend, you are a hot cup of coffee, something strong on the rocks, and some fire too, all around me. I'm like the little dog, the meme where everything is fine and it's just Heidi Dragon, like with fire everywhere.
It's fine. Everything is
Everything
fine.
is fine. I'm with
Everything
Heidi
is
St
fine.
John. I just love you. I'm so thankful for you. Truly have shaped my future, my children's future, with just your willingness to speak truth in spite of consequence and reputation,
Mm.
and that's so important. So I hope that this audience has been so encouraged by your fiery words today. And it's okay to feel a little burned and need to take a minute to think, wait, what in the world just happened and why am I feeling angry? I
And we
think,
all love you too. I mean, I,
yes,
I
yeah.
have been there. And I think the reason I'm so passionate about it now is because I realize that there just is no time to waste.
Mm,
And I know what it's like to feel overwhelmed. I have cried my eyes out. There have been many times when I've just been like, what am I doing this for? But I'll tell you what I have now that I didn't have 20 years ago. I have perspective.
mm.
And I can tell you every tear I cried was worth it. Every math lesson I taught was worth it. Every conversation, every opportunity to talk to my kids about things that really matter while other kids were getting on a school bus was worth it. And I cried a lot of tears, and I still cry, but now my tears are from thankfulness to the Lord that he let me do it in the first place. We live in the most free, amazing nation on the face of the earth, where we are free to raise our children, free from tyranny, free to teach them about God, free to educate them about the amazing true history of our nation. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And we have the opportunity to do it. And I want moms to know I've been where you are. I cried. I didn't want to homeschool my kids. It was the Lord that got my attention. And I think it was the Lord that saved my family from a generational pattern of abuse and all kinds of weirdness in my own family. And the Lord brought us home.
Mm.
And he wants you to bring your kids home. And what God will do in you, what he starts in you, he will finish. He finishes it. We don't need to finish it. We can trust that the Lord will finish it. And I think good things are ahead. I really do.
I love you, my friend. I love
Love
your words of
you.
wisdom. How can people follow you? Because you know they're going to want to come on over to your podcast now, which
Oops.
I am like, yes and amen. Please go find her. So how can they find my mentor who has helped shape me?
Thank you, Brett. You're so sweet, and I love you, girl. You know I love you. Can't wait for you to get up here
I know.
and do a show with
Soon.
me.
Soon.
My show airs 3 days a week. It is just called the Heidi St John podcast, coming up on 27 million downloads over there. I've been doing it for about 9 years. I like to meet people at the intersection of faith and culture. And so, for that reason, we're talking about politics, we're talking about health, we're talking about parenting and marriage and homeschooling and all the things. And, I, as you can tell, I tend not to pull any punches,
No.
but also I like to think I'm a little on the funny side. So you're going to get a good sort of a mix of all those things. I've written 10 books coming up on 11. People can find those at HeidiSt.John.com or anywhere that books are sold. I run a Bible study for women called Faith That Speaks,
Yes. So good.
taking women through the Bible this year.
Mhm.
So lots and lots of things. And when I'm not doing that, I'm making sourdough. So there you
And
go.
I'll bring you down here before I come up to you to
Yeah,
revive my little
girl, I
sourdough.
will come and we'll just, it's just a
We'll
little,
speak little
it's sugar
sweet things
talking.
over it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
We just need a little talk. It's okay. We'll just talk. We'll have a talk to sourdough. It's fine.
Our sourdough is redeemable. The school system is not. So
That's exact. Now, see, that's a
see?
sweatshirt.
There you
Your
go.
sourdough starter can be
Oh.
fixed. The school cannot.
Okay. Okay.
Bam.
If you don't take it, I'm taking it.
I'm
So
going to take it. I'm going to
okay.
take it with you. We'll partner. We'll make hats and mugs. This is
Oh,
so
okay.
good.
We need to do this again soon. I love you. I thank you. And go find Heidi. Go follow her. She's going to give you so much encouragement and she's going to challenge you, but it's all good. So, Heidi, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, my friend.
Um,